welcome to another premiere. Hey, let me get some lights on. Well, what you can see on camera, along with our very cute little couple, the doctor and his wife, you can see an amazing Kenmore Model 1050 from 1974. Now, if you work for Kenmore, it's not just a Model 1050, it's a Model 158.10500. Because Kenmore, they love their numbers. They really do. Well, let me give you a little bit of backstory on this machine, because it's a lot more interesting and a lot more heart-touching when you understand the story behind a machine. And it's a lot deeper than a model number, whether you add all the zeros or not. Well, when Donna Maloney from the great state of Tennessee sent this machine to the workshop, she shared a little note with it that I'd like to read to you. She says, "Hello, Scott. Meet Jenny. My Kenmore 1050 named her after my mom, who gave her to me for my high school graduation in 1975. My mom worked in a shoe factory, $2 an hour, and saved a long time before she could send the order from the Sears catalog." And then another machine that Donna sent is named Millie, but we're not going to get into that right now. Talking about Jenny again, with this machine I have made my wedding dress, maternity clothes, baby clothes, Halloween costumes, and more curtains than I can remember. About 20 years ago I decided to upgrade to a Bernina and stashed her away in my sewing closet. Now that I know how gifted you are at restoring old treasures, I would like to be able to use her again. She will be the perfect machine for retreats. We talked about just getting her back in shape mechanically, but I'm wondering if there's anything you can do to fix the yellowing and discoloring plastic parts. I've added a little extra to cover that. And then she puts at the bottom of it, "Thank you for taking Jenny on, Donna Maloney from the great state of Tennessee." What an incredible story, and it just gives you a depth of appreciation for the significance of the machine on camera in front of you right now. Donna's mom, Jenny, worked tirelessly in a shoe factory. Shoe factory is not easy work. It's very labor intensive. And she was only earning a wage of $2 an hour. And she saved and she scrimped and she saved and she scrimped and she saved. And she was finally able to pull enough money together to buy this very special Model 1050 for Donna when Donna graduated from high school. Talk about a treasure machine that holds so many amazing memories. And that's why I was so privileged. I felt so privileged and honored to be able to be a part of bringing Jenny back to a point where when Donna takes this to retreats or outings or wherever she decides to take Jenny, because Jenny has a really cool embossed case. I'll just show it to you real quick. If you didn't see it somehow, I showed it a couple times. But she's got this really cool kind of a rose pattern embossed case that Jenny can go into and be transported wherever Donna wants to take her. So, but folks are just going to drool. They're going to drool when they see Jenny. And more importantly, it's not just the appearance sake, but when they see what Jenny can do from a sewing standpoint, it's going to blow their socks off. And you may have noticed, if you follow me on Facebook, you may have noticed a couple of times I drew direct comparisons between what I called Kenmore's answer to the Featherweight with this Model 1050. And it's because of how compact this machine is. And I even put my Centennial Featherweight, that's from my personal collection, on the workbench here, so that hopefully we're going to be able to take a little bit of time today. You can kind of see the two side by side there. We can take a little bit of time today, and I'm going to take my handy dandy measuring tape and give you some comparisons of these two machines. Now, I'll say up front right away without any hesitation that Ginny is a little bit heavier. She is definitely heavier than the featherweight. She's not an 11-pounder. But with that said, she also has, depending on what you go with, because when I dug into Ginny and I restored her from the inside out, I noticed that the Japanese motor, and yes, Ginny has Japanese roots. So, I could bring Umi over as well, and Umi could be a part of this. Because Kenmore did move their operations over to Japan, and Ginny is a product of that operational effort over in Japan. But the point is, inside of Ginny, deep inside of Ginny, where her motor is stamped actually 0.8 amps, 0.80 amps. But her nomenclature plate says 1 amp. So there we are in a little bit of a quandary. Is it 0.8 or is it 1.0? I would argue that once I got done with the motor, it doesn't matter very much. Because most 0.8 amp motors that I've optimized are going to peak at 1 amp anyway. So, when it comes to 1 amp versus 0.8 amps, you're not going to notice a difference. All you're going to notice is that Ginny's got a lot of power, and she has at least two times more power than the featherweight to the right on the screen there. Because the featherweight only comes with a 0.4 amp motor. Ginny comes with a 0.8 amp motor that peaks at right around 1 amp. So she is a little spitfire when it comes to her power that she can kick out of her tiny little frame. And I think you'll see that in these sew-offs today as well. So meet Ginny, a special high school graduation gift from Donna's mom to her that carries a lot of great memories. Not to mention it's got a legacy of project work, as Donna shared in her note, that includes the making of her wedding dress and more curtains than she could count. I thought that was cute. And maternity clothes and baby clothes and Halloween costumes and all the things that Donna shared in her note to me. So Ginny has gotten a lot of use already, and I know Donna's going to get a lot more fun using her on future projects. So all of that blah, 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 blahing. I'm going to move our friends to a safe spot and give you an opportunity to hear Donna's Model 1050 Ginny kind of fire up a little bit. You'll be able to hear her motor strength and understand straight away. And we're going to take the glory away from this little featherweight over here and shift back over to Ginny. And I'm also going to put a little bit more music on when we do a few more things before we jump into sewing with Ginny as well. Well, the first song, if you were listening and are familiar with it, it is In the Sweet By and By. The next one is called The Colonial. The Colonial. Let me just take you on a little walk around Ginny real quick so you can kind of understand the lay of the land. Right here behind our friends, I'm going to kind of shift our friends to the side if I may do that, is the proud branding mark of Sears Kenmore. We move over to the right side of the machine right over here, you're going to see an on-off switch. And I can tell you that this on-off switch is a genuine power-up button. In other words, when it's in the off position, you can step on the foot controller all day long and you're not going to get anything, and the light won't be on either. Some machines, a switch like this serves only to power on the light, and even when it's off, you've got a direct power source to the motor, so you got to be real careful. This one, it's a direct off when that switch is in the down position. Moving up right here, we've got stitch length, and Ginny has a huge stitch length variation. Anything from right around 6 stitches per inch all the way down to 30. And I thought it was kind of neat that they mounted it on the right side of the machine as a standalone so that you can, have it out of sight, out of mind if you don't need to make any changes to it. Right here we have our reverse button. And the way this machine is engineered, when there's certain decorative cam output type stitching going on, this control will have just a little bit of a wiggle to it, because there are components that are connected to it that are having a little interplay with the cam generated stitching. Otherwise, for general reverse stitching for back tacking, you're just going to rotate that down in the direction of the arrow and then bring it back to its regular position when you're done reverse sewing. Right over here we have our stitch selector. Excuse me, we have our stitch width. I'm getting ahead of myself. This is our stitch width, and it'll give you an opportunity for anything from straight stitching, and then you can adjust it clockwise to go into some real wide zigzag stitching with this machine. Now we're at the stitch selector, and this is a little knob that you kind of rotate to change between stitching. It's got all kinds of stitch outputs on it, including the catacomb style stitch that you may have seen me post a mini clip of on Facebook. And it's got all kinds of other stitches. We'll try some of those out during this premiere today. Right over here, I'll kind of come out on the shot a little bit. Right over here on the right side of the machine, you've got a bobbin winding assembly that you simply slide in when you're going to wind a bobbin, like that. And then when you're done winding a bobbin, you can either pull it back, or it will also push this back as well when that bobbin is full. Now this machine is a little unique when it comes to how do you disengage the clutch. Right now I've got the clutch disengaged by pulling it out, okay? So if I step on the foot controller right now, gotta grab my clippers that fell on the floor. If you step on the foot controller right now, you're going to hear the power of that 0.8 amp motor, which peaks at 1 amp. Like I said, it's at least 2 times more powerful than the Featherweight. You couldn't see it because it was off camera, but that Featherweight, oh, we were actually off camera there a little bit. You know, I guess I bumped it. Let me try that again. All right, rewind. Here is Jenny's power. And you're going to notice something unique about Ginny, and that is when we push on the foot controller, unlike other machines where when you disengage that clutch retainer, you're going to see that balance wheel spinning. Ginny's balance wheel does not spin when we're engaging that bobbin winding function. But if we engaged this, then you would see the bobbin winder spin, like so. So that's a unique feature as well on this Kenmore Model 1050, is that when you're winding a bobbin, there is no balance wheel movement. Now before I forget, I'm going to re-engage that clutch by just pushing in the balance wheel so that we're ready when we get to the point of actually doing some sewing. Otherwise I'll be spinning out and won't be doing a thing. So if we move over, what else was I going to show you on Ginny? Yeah, we already looked at stitch selector, all the different stitches that she can generate. Oh yeah, let's talk about tension. So the tensioner right here on the front of the machine is just a dial style. You dial it up if you are getting a weak lock stitch. You dial it down if you're getting too much of a pronounced lock stitch and you want to give some of that victory back to the bobbin case. Simple enough. Since we're right in the area, I'll just talk a little bit about threading. Threading's a little bit tricky on Jenny's. Matter of fact, I'll show you by coming off the tripod. Let's do that. Let's come off here and we can kind of peek behind Ginny. And so we've got our spool of thread right here, and I'm using the Americana quilting thread from Joann Fabrics. As we come off the top, you're going to see we come right behind the machine here, and there is a thread guide right here that we have to go through. We then come through this little track right here. We actually run the thread right through that track. And then after we come through that track, it kind of comes over the top of the tensioner right through there, through this thread guide. We then come down here, and we have to go, you go in front of this thread guide right here. Let me kind of zoom in on that. You go in front of that thread guide, then you come underneath this tension take-up spring right here. You kind of come with the thread underneath. You come up behind this thread guide right here. Bring the thread behind that thread guide, come up to your take-up arm. And there is a little slat in there. You can kind of see that from the edge where you can just bring the thread behind and just slide it through instead of having to thread it through. You then bring the thread back down. You bring it behind this tensioner, this thread guide. Follow it all the way down. There's another thread guide right here. And then finally you're going to come down to the needle. Actually, that's not correct. There's one more teeny tiny little thread guide. Right, if I can get the camera to focus. Right there. Right here is where I'm kind of pointing. You got a thread guide on the left and you got a thread guide on the right because obviously Jenny is capable of doing dual needle sewing. And then finally you're going to thread Jenny from front to back on the needle. And I'm using a size 90 Schmetz universal needle today. And we're going to be sewing a wide field of different sew-offs. And you can see these are the ones that I've done off camera right here. I showed these on Facebook and I showed them through a mini clip as well. The mini clip one showed me sewing this catacomb one right on top here. This camera does not want to focus. So the one on the very top, I won't try to zoom in again, is the one that I sewed on that mini clip and posted on Facebook. And then we've got kind of a, I'd call it almost kind of a wavy type stitch just down below that, a zigzag, and then finally a straight stitch on the bottom there. So I'm going to move our French to the back. I'll show you a little secret about Jenny. We'll move our doctor to the back with his missus. They are a cute couple, aren't they? You saw them, if you follow me on Facebook, you saw them involved in a number of the different things that I did on Facebook. So I'm going to kind of hold the camera with one hand. You push right on this little tab right here, pop up this little door, and then you're able to remove this accessory box right here. Also, it then gives you access to get down to the bobbin as well for changing out the bobbin, rewinding, whatever. But this little accessory box, and obviously I painted this little door flap. I painted this accessory box as well because Donna was concerned about it being faded. And then also the hidden little extension bed on the end as well I painted. And you notice that they all match the same yellow theme that this little block originally had. That's the original color that kind of faded a little bit, and we just brightened it up a little bit through this paint job that I did. But if you turn this a little bit, you can open this up one-handed, and you can see that I didn't paint the inside completely. I'll have to ask Donna if she wants me to make that yellow too. I can do that. But this is where you'll put all your goodies, your bobbins, your extra needles, you know, any doodads that you want to have in there. Maybe some of that bubble gum that I love to chew when I'm in the workshop. And then when you're not using it, you just slide it back into position like this. See if I can do this one-handed. Slide that back into position. You let that little door close. And you're ready to jump back into sewing again. So really just a fabulous machine from every standpoint. Very thoughtful design. I love the fact that they designed it with kind of a featherweight flare with the little extension bed on the end to give you just a little bit more workspace, and that they doubled the power of this machine compared to our Centennial Featherweight over here. Ooh, that reminds me. Now class has started. So the 1050, I think, is a brilliant machine. Obviously, a lot of different 158 submodels that came within that class. And I think this is probably one of the best ones that Donna's mom picked out for her as a high school graduation present. So, what else did I want to do? I think we'll do a little bit of measurements now. Should we do that? Yeah. And I'll have to go back on the tripod for that because I don't think I want to try to balance the camera while I'm doing measurements. That'll be a little tricky. We'll do some measurements so you can get an idea of the difference between Ginny and this featherweight. I'm going to move the whole tripod for just a moment so we've got a more of a straight on shot. There we go. I think that's pretty good. Put on a little bit more music. And we'll keep this premiere rolling. Keep this premiere rolling. I'm going to move the bell out of the way for a second. Well, the first song we heard was called In the Sweet By and By. We heard the Colonial, and now we're going to hear a piece called Future King of Heaven. Future King of Heaven. What a clever title. I love it. I'm going to get a little drink of water, too. I love this song. I'm going to turn down it just a little bit so I don't have to shout. There we go. Well, we talk a lot about workspace and harp space and all that kind of stuff, right? So let's compare these two machines. Kenmore's answer to the featherweight, the 1050, and a featherweight itself. I'll fold down the featherweight bed because we're going to have to measure that as well. I'll move my little... I use this as kind of a buffer in between, especially on any of the tilt bed machines, like the featherweights and the 301s and that, because sometimes you can get a little bit of a rubbing against the little screw-in piece that holds the faceplate on. So I'd recommend something like that as well for your machines so you don't scratch up your bed. Well, let's look at Ginny first. As far as overall length of the machine, total length of the machine, including the bed, the extension bed. So we're looking at right around 14.5 inches, 14.5 inches. On the featherweight, interestingly, we're looking at 14.5 inches, but if you count the little plug-in point on the side, see how it kind of sticks out a little bit? You're at right around 15.25 inches. So I would argue that you have to count this because it's nothing you can take off. It's solid plastic where you plug in the power source and everything on the featherweight. So overall compactness with the bed down for workspace, you actually have a more compact design with the Kenmore Model 1050 than the Featherweight 221. Now we oftentimes talk about harp space. Let's look at harp space. Harp space is from the center of the needle to the inside of the pillar. That's critical workspace. So I'm going to kind of go like this so I can try to get as accurate of a measurement as possible. So on Donna's Ginny Kenmore Model 1050, from the center of the needle to the edge of the pillar, this is all turn space right through here, between here and here. You're looking at a total harp space length of 7 inches. So from needle to the inside of the pillar, you're looking at 7 inches. On the featherweight, you're only looking at about 5.25 inches. 5.25 inches from the center of the needle to the edge of the pillar, the inside edge of the pillar. So you've got more than 2 inches more workspace width-wise, like here on Ginny, than you do on the featherweight. That's a huge plus. And I don't think Kenmore did that by mistake. I think they knew what those measurements were on the featherweight, and they said, we're going to give a larger harp space to our model 1050 so that people will desire it more for bulkier projects and for ease of turning material when they're working on projects. Plus they doubled the motor power. I don't think that was by mistake either. So now we're going to talk about the Harp Space vertical clearance. From the bottom of the bed to the bottom of the arm, we're looking at just a little bit shy of 4.5 inches. So from here to the bottom of here is right around 4.5 inches. On the Featherweight, we're right about at 4.25 inches. 4.25 inches from the bottom of the bed to the bottom of the arm. So 4.25 versus 4.5, not a huge difference there, but still Kenmore engineered more vertical harp space clearance, definitely a lot more horizontal harp space clearance on their model 1050 than the Featherweight 221 has. So far, a huge plus as far as overall harp space being far superior to the Featherweight 221. Now the last measurement we do for harp space is from front to back, the depth of the workspace, and we're looking at 5 inches on the model 1050. I think the Featherweight's going to beat it here. I'm pretty sure it will. Yep. So the Featherweight has much more depth of workspace than the model 1050. We're looking at right around 6 3/4 inches. So, you know, depending on what's important to you with your projects and your sewing objectives, if you're looking for vertical clearance, the 1050 is the clear choice. If you're looking for width clearance in the harp space, for rotating materials through that area and turning materials, the 1050 is clearly the choice. The width, the height, it's a slam dunk on the 1050. If you're looking for depth of the machine from front to back, the Featherweight 221 wins on that one objective. So 2 out of the 3 objectives when it comes to the importance of harp space, the 1050 has it hands down. The one objective of workspace as far as the depth from front to back, the 221 can claim victory on that. But I mean, if you say to me, what are your boxes to check? Motor strength, 1050 has 2 times more power than the Featherweight. I like to have plenty of clearance between the needle and the pillar for rotating bulkier projects through. The 1050 clearly has the victory there. Vertical clearance is really important to me because I've got to get my hand in there as well as I'm moving material through. I need a lot of vertical clearance. 1050 has that as well. Very few people are going to be greatly concerned unless they have a material that, if they're working in a workspace where they need that greater depth because the material is going to fall off the table or something like that. That's the only area that I could point to the Featherweight and say that's the clear winner. So I don't know. I guess it's going to be up to those diehard Featherweight and those diehard Kenmore followers that say, yeah, that would be my choice. And I'm not going to point because then I'll give away the victory to one or the other. So that just gives you an idea a little bit of the measurements of these two machines, since in the Facebook post in particular, I talked a lot about the comparisons between and the intentions of Kenmore with coming out with the model 1050 as being an answer to the Featherweight. The other thing that you could argue as well is the drive system is also superior on the model 1050 compared to the Featherweight. The Featherweight has a single belt system that goes over the motor pulley output shaft and then comes over the balance wheel. The Kenmore has a dual belt system where it distributes that power between pulleys on the inside of here, and you're less likely to have slippage that way. So I would say from a launch standpoint as well, if you're doing heavier sewing, I think the power drive system of the 1050 is also superior to the Featherweight 221. If you're looking to do heavy grade sewing, number one, this would be a better choice because of the power output of the motor, but also the drive system as well with having dual belts that are going to distribute that that punch and power at launch much more evenly and give you less issues with slippage. So I sound like a huge fan of Kenmore's. I'm not necessarily a bigger fan of Kenmore's than I am of Featherweights, but I try to be objective and fair in assessing the deliverables of the machine through these premieres. And those are the facts. Those are the simple facts when it comes to the strengths of this model versus the strengths of this model. So the one thing you can point to clearly is the Featherweight is definitely a lighter weight machine than the Kenmore 1050 by probably about 7 or 8 pounds. So there you go. That's a quick little thumbnail kind of taking you through the ins and outs of the Featherweight versus the model 1050. All right. Let's see if we're almost ready to start sewing now. I'll throw this to the back, the off camera type sewing that we did with Ginny. And I think I'm gonna move our Featherweight just so I've got a little bit more space. I'll move my Centennial Featherweight. And a shameless plug, this Centennial Featherweight 221 is eventually going to go up for sale. I've got to do all new paint on it, new decals, and I've had a number of people appeal to me about going with a kind of a custom color. Still pondering that, but I am a traditionalist, so it's probably going to end up ebony just as it is now. Or if you know anything about the spectrometer level of paint choices for different manufacturers, you'll know that the black paint on Singer's is actually a blue-black blend. It actually has blue in the black. So I will probably be a traditionalist and go with a blue-black blend instead of a custom color. So, all right, let me move our Featherweight out of the way, which, again, I'm not advocating one model over the other, but I am pointing out the deliverables of the two models. So you'll have to make your own choice depending on what your project objectives are. All right, back over here. Less blah, blah, blahing on my part, and we'll get into some sewing with Jenny. So that was Future King of Heaven. Now we're going to do Creek Whistle. Creek Whistle. There we go. And we've got a lot warmer weather today in Wisconsin. I think we're supposed to get up to around 60 today. That's like a heat wave. So I do have the heater off in the workshop. So you'll notice in between different transitions in that, it's going to be a little bit quieter than usual. All right, let's head over here. And I think I'll start with some good old-fashioned straight stitching. Yeah, that's about right. Oh, I got to move my tripod. I just got it all set up, and now I have to move the tripod again because I had moved it over so I could get a more straight-on shot with the Featherweight and the Model 1050. There we go. Right about there, I think. Also, you'll notice on the throat plate cover that also goes over the feed dogs, we've got some really nice seam markings on there as well that makes it so much easier for folks not to have to tape up their bed and put little tape marks to mark all of the different seam allowances. They've got them right there on the throat cover plate, which I think is fabulous. All right, let's get busy. And even with that bright LED light, I still use my auxiliary lights as well, just to give us better light on the bed and that. Okay, kind of debating now what I'm going to start with. I'm set up for a straight stitch. Yeah, we'll start with straight stitching first, once I brush all this stuff off of there. This is commercial grade canvas. You've seen me sew this stuff before. I argue that it's actually heavier grade than the U.S. Army grade canvas that I used for so many premieres. And I'm going to go through, I'll go through 6 layers of this with Jenny. So I'm going to fold it in the middle, get us up to 4 layers. I'm going to fold it one more time, get us all the way up, to 6 layers of commercial grade canvas. Now, would I try this on a featherweight? Knowing me, I probably would. But it would be right near the top of the peak threshold of what I would try as far as this many layers of canvas on a featherweight. And I think the featherweight would probably struggle a little bit with it even after I optimized it again, because you're talking about only a 0.4 amp motor. With 0.8 amps peaking at 1 amp, I think we should be in good shape. So I'm going to get this lined up underneath the presser foot, which has a huge amount of clearance, by the way. And we're going to buzz down and lay down some straight stitching on these 6 layers of commercial grade canvas. All right, are you ready? Take up arms at the highest position. I do have the clutch engaged. Let's give this a go, see how we do. All right, here we go. I didn't even hardly give that any gas, and you saw again, because again of the engineering design of the drive belt system. Again, it's distributed between 2 belts. There was no hesitation on the part of Ginny at all, and we're talking about 6 layers of commercial grade canvas, folks. Also, you may have caught a glimpse of it when I did it accidentally. I moved the presser foot lever up, and you'll notice also we have a hyperextension, a huge hyperextension on Ginny. Look at that. It's nuts. That hyperextension is going to give you about another 7 millimeters of clearance. So none of that. I've got to do the quick release. I've got to push the presser foot bar up. With this one, if you don't have enough clearance like it is in its regular position, which we were able to slide 6 layers of commercial canvas underneath here like it was a breeze. If you need a little bit more clearance, it's going, it's going, it's going, it's going, it's going, it's going. Look at that. If I were to stick a stack of quarters underneath here, underneath that presser foot, between the presser foot and the bed of the machine, you could probably fit about 5 or 6 quarters. Look at that. I'll just say it. Woo, doggy. That's a lot of clearance, folks. That's crazy clearance. Crazy clearance. All right, I'm going to stop messing with the presser foot bar. Jenny's getting irritated. Like, hey, stop that. Stop that. All right, let's sew across, and I'm really going to meter out that power, and then we're going to go down to the stretch. Here we go. All right. Down to the stretch now. All right, here we go. 6 layers of commercial grade canvas. Down to the finish. So daggone easy, it's almost ridiculous. It's almost ridiculous. And again, canvas is going to be one of those materials when you're dealing with 6 layers like this, even if you have excellent feed dog movement and you've got adequate presser foot pressure, this stuff is still, with that many layers, 6 layers, folks, you're still going to get a little bit of a wiggle jiggle as that material is pitching and heaving a little bit as it's being moved over those feed dogs and underneath that presser foot. So you're going to notice that our stitches on top are going to be beautifully aligned, but we might get a little bit of a wiggle jiggle on that lock stitch on the bottom. And that's to be expected, just because we're dealing with so many layers of this material. So many layers. So let's do this. I'm going to kind of lean it against that presser foot. No, I'm not, because that's going to tip if I try that. Let me see if my doctor friend will be kind enough to hold this for me down by his feet. He's very gracious. He said, "No problem, Scott. I'd be glad. I'd be honored to help." Thank you, sir. All right, let's take a look at this stitching. Again, we're talking 6 layers of commercial canvas, commercial grade canvas. And you already heard Ginny. I mean, she sewed it like it was a light cotton. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to go across the material here and look at the stitch presentation. Folks, those are gorgeous stitches. Again, we're dealing with so many layers of commercial grade canvas that the stitches are going to be in nice alignment, but you might notice just some real subtle anomalies where there's a slight pitch up or pitch down. And that's because of the number of layers that we're dealing with. If we dealt with a single layer or even 2 layers of commercial canvas, those stitches would be in perfect alignment all the way around. But considering how many layers we're managing here, and the fact that that material, even with good presser foot pressure, even with sharp feed dogs and proper alignment of the material underneath the presser foot, we're still going to get a little bit of a wiggle jiggle. It's going to happen. Let me turn around. Let's take a look at that lock stitch now. After I get my little fluffy duffy off of it. See what I mean by how quiet it is in the workshop? Crazy quiet. I got to put some music on. It's going to drive me nuts. All right. So we just played Creek Whistle. Now we're going to do Coved Come Not Near. I don't know when this was written, but boy, I'll tell you, a lot of people would sing that song. Coved Come Not Near. Coved, go away. Come back another day. Never come back another day, probably. So here we're looking at the lock stitch on 6 layers of commercial grade canvas. Let's zoom in and take a closer look at the stitching. Here's my little pickup when I made that turn. So folks, I am really pleased with this as well. Again, we're talking 6 layers of commercial grade canvas. And the fact that Jenny did this, and we're not using a needle that's specifically designed for woven materials. We're using a general universal type needle. And we're using a quilting thread. I'm really pleased with this. I would definitely give it a pass, both on this lock stitch and also on this top stitch as well. And look at again the thickness of what we went through. We are talking about 6 layers of commercial grade canvas. The thick of thick. I'm going to throw that to the back as a definite pass. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for your help. And again, this is a Japanese engineered machine. A lot of people have questions about Japanese machines, just because, they're an import. I have no reservations at all when it comes to what this machine is capable of doing and how reliable it is. It's a fabulous, fabulous machine that Donna's mom picked out for her. All right, let's continue our sew-offs. What are we going to do next? We'll do some more straight stitching. Let's see what we have now. I've got my good old bubblegum material. I've got my compressed felt. I've got genuine elk hide. Protected full grain leather. Why don't we do some genuine elk hide? I got a big old piece right here. You can see that. And I think what we'll do is we'll buzz down with a straight stitch through a single layer, then we'll fold it in half and lay down another stitch through those 2 layers. I have not tested Jenny on 2 layers of 2 layers of genuine elk hide yet, but I don't think she'll have any trouble with it. I'm also going to open the faceplate because that's where you adjust the presser foot pressure and just see where we're set right now. We're set on 4, I might just bump this up just a little tiny little bit. Okay. Alright, a single layer of genuine elk hide. Let's see how Jenny does with this. You've seen me sew genuine elk hide numerous times on this channel. So let's see how she does with this material that you're very familiar with. Here we go. Just like a train, you know, it's got that rhythm, it's got that sound of I'm getting this done. It's not a big deal. And you can see what I mean as far as the feed factor of this Model 1050. When you're dealing with a single layer of even 3 to 4 ounces of genuine elk hide like this, stitch alignment, the stitch presentation, you'll see it is going to be absolutely spot on. Compared to when you're trying to feed 6 layers of commercial canvas, which is absolutely insane. That's not even, I mean, that's like light industrial almost, when you're getting to that level of canvas, that many layers. Well, let's take a look at these real quick, and I don't think I'll need the doctor's help on this. We'll take a look at the top stitch, and then we'll flip it over and try to look at that lock stitch. It might be a little bit harder to see, because elk hide does have a nap on it. Let me just move that a little bit more. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good angle. Okay, so here's our top stitch, single layer of genuine elk hide. Beautiful stitching. Again, look at the thickness from the top there. About 4 or 5 ounces of genuine elk hide. Beautiful stitching. And I could certainly use a leather needle on this Kenmore 1050 as well. And again, with the design of the leather needle, cutting a wider hole as you're pulling that thread back up, and using that blade style cutting design for the needle, we would even get more enhanced stitch definition than we already are. But I'm really pleased with that. It's fabulous, fabulous stitch quality. Let me turn around. We'll look at the lock stitch. And again, it's kind of a nappy material. We're not going to be able to see every facet of that lock stitch. We're going to be able to get a little glimpse of it. But I can tell you up close and personal, it is looking really good. Right there you can get a real clear vision of those lock stitches. And you'll notice that when Donna was describing in her note, she didn't mention that she did any leather sewing, but it's good to know that Jenny is able to sew at this level. And now we're going to double that level in case Donna decides to do some leather sewing. She might. So let me get this into position for our 2 layers. And we'll see how Jenny can manage 2 layers of genuine elk hide. Not an easy task at all. Not even close to an easy task. I'll press this down a little bit. And we still don't need that hyperextension even for 2 layers of genuine elk hide. But those feed dogs have a high enough profile, you got to kind of wiggle it past them a little bit. So if you go much thicker than this, you probably will want to use that hyperextension. Just trying to make sure I've got a good seating of that presser foot on this material, because we're going to be moving about 8 to 10 ounces of genuine elk hide. This is not an easy task at all, folks. And again, I did not test this off camera, so we'll see. Maybe it's too much, but I doubt it. I think Jenny will do just fine with it. All right, let me check my camera alignment. And again, I could do all kinds of easy peasy sew-offs, but I like to really use these premieres as an opportunity to really put these machines underneath the bright lights and really put them to the test. So let's see how Jenny does with a super tough sew-off like this. All right, here we go. Keep your fingers and toes crossed. Hopefully I don't break a needle. Again, this is not a leather needle. This is a universal needle, so it should be able to handle this, but we may end up replacing a needle. You never know. All right, here we go. I'm going to really take it slow, too. Again, because of the drive system on this with those dual belts, you didn't notice any hesitation, any slippage whatsoever from this model 1050. Really quite impressive. Quite impressive. Beautiful job. And I'm already getting a preview of these stitches, and I am loving what I'm seeing. And the fact of how easily this machine just got the job done. Now I'm going to line this up on the presser foot. Here, I'll use my shears to kind of hold it in place. Now the top row is going to be the second row that we just sewed. The top row will be the second row. Wait. Yeah, that's correct. The top row of stitching is the second stitch row that we just did. The bottom row is the first one that we did through a single layer of genuine elk hide. So the top row we'll look at, the bottom row we'll look at. Just realize that top row is the second one we just did through 2 layers of genuine elk hide. Yeah, trying to pick a little tune for us as we're looking at this. This next one is an interesting title. The last one we just heard again was COVID Come Not Near. Next one is called The Slow Rabbit. I have never known a slow rabbit. They are so quick and able to change direction. That just is insane. All right, so top row is our second one that we did through 2 layers of this elk hide. Bottom row is the first one we did. Here we go. And if I were sewing a ton of this, I would definitely use a Schmetz leather needle, because it's going to give us a more even distribution of stitch length as it's pulling that thread back up. Folks, that's some beautiful stitching right there. Let's come out and look at the totality of stitching. Got a pretty long piece there. So if you look at the totality of stitching, again, the top row is the second run that we just did. The bottom row is the first row we just did through a single layer. Considering we're using a universal needle, size 90, with quilting thread, yeah, I am really pleased with that. That's absolutely spot on. So now when we turn it over, we're going to see a single line of stitching, which is our second stitch off that we did through 2 layers. Which again, this model 1050 launched into this like it was no big deal. No big deal whatsoever. Me balancing it's going to be a bigger deal. I might have to call out our doctor again for help. So this again is our lock stitch coming through 2 layers of genuine elk hide. Folks, I am seeing a beautiful page 34 lock stitch. Beautiful stitching, beautiful stitching. I'm actually seeing some points where it might be a little bit overpronounced, which is telling me that if we were sewing a ton of genuine elk hide, especially if we were using a leather needle, I would probably back off that upper tension just a tiny little bit to give back some of the victory to that top stitch. But all in all, using a size 90 universal needle with quilting thread, both of these rows of stitching that we've looked at, the top stitch and now this lock stitch coming through about 8 to 10 ounces of genuine elk hide, is absolutely brag-worthy. Absolutely brag-worthy. And you know what's equally brag-worthy is how easily Jenny got this done. There was no pause. There was no hitting the surface of that leather and going, oh my gosh, and then having to use like a hand start or something like that. There was no hand start involved with this. It was the sheer distribution of that 0.8 amp motor peaking at 1 amp with that very unique drive system where it's using dual belts over separate pulleys to distribute that power to give you a more even launch. Brilliant engineering on the part of Kenmore. And it shows itself. It's not something you just put on a flip chart and talk to people about. You can sew and show them the difference through sew-offs like this, confirmation sew-offs, saying, look at the difference. Try to do this. Try to do 2 layers of genuine elk hide on a Featherweight 221 with its drive system. Even if those pulleys are serviced, even if that belt is not glazed in any way, you're very, very likely going to get some slippage because all of that power is coming off of that output shaft, going over the balance wheel, and there's no way to distribute it. It's like a racing transmission on a car where they use a different setup so that you get better traction, you get better launch. That's what Kenmore did. They put a racing transmission in this model 1050. It's so obvious when you see it doing a sew-off like this. It's so obvious. So I'm going to throw these 2 layers of genuine elk hide to the back as a definite pass. Incredibly impressed with this Kenmore 1050. Jenny is doing a fabulous job. Fabulous job. So that was the slow rabbit. I don't know what y'all think of that. I didn't feel like it was a slow rabbit. I thought it was kind of a fast rabbit, but let's see what the next one is. Banish misfortune. Banish misfortune. And I just clicked the wrong button, daggone it. Hold on a second. There we go. Now I clicked the right one, I think. Banish misfortune. Here it is. Oh, we've heard this one lots of times. Yeah, we have. So type in the chat how you think I did as far as the color choice. Color choices are such a difficult thing. More than any other part of the work I did on Jenny was going through a number of different paint color options and looking at that original, I'll call it a birthmark. Looking at that original birthmark up here. That's the original color, probably a slight fade on it, but that's the original birthmark of Jenny. And then you look at it compared to that. I think I did pretty good, don't you? If you think I did a pretty good job in picking on an appropriate color match, would you type it in the chat just to let me know that, please? All right. Let's get back to the needle and do some more sewing. And thank you in advance if you typed a comment in there, just so I feel like, yeah, I did it. I nailed it. Some guys just don't have a clue about colors, but I think I do pretty well. All right, so we did 2 layers of genuine elk hide. I haven't sewn this stuff in about 100 years. This gunny sack material. I had to think about it for a second there, what it was called. I think it's kind of like a burlap, isn't it? I think they also call it burlap. And this stuff is just plain tricky weird when it comes to sewing it. We're going to do 4 layers of it, and I think I'll do a zigzag with it. What do you think? I could try a zigzag with it. So I'm going to fold it in half. And this is bulky stuff. We might have to use that hyperextension. This is bulky stuff, very bulky. But I got it in there just fine. Alright, so here we go. I'm going to get that presser foot down. But first of all, I'm going to change the camera angle a little bit and show you how easily we can do a zigzag. Nothing tricky about this at all, but holy mackerel. That is some crazy thick stuff, folks. And if you know anything about gunny sack material, it is a woven material that is off the charts when it comes to piercing threshold. It is so strong. You can use this stuff with a single layer to haul around like 50 pounds of potatoes. And it's like, no worries, we got this. We're going through 4 layers of it, folks. 4 layers with Jenny. I know, crazy. So, coming out on the shot a little bit, we don't have to do a thing with our stitch selector up here because we're on the kind of an orangey dot that's going to tell us we're in the general mode of sewing. I'll get a little bit closer so you can see the orangey dot. So all we're going to do is change our stitch width, which is this control right here. Again, stitch width, stitch length is on the side of the machine, reverse, and then finally our stitch selector on top, but we're not going to do anything with our stitch selector yet. So I'm going to rotate this clockwise, and again, make sure your needle is clear of the material. I'm actually not going to go with a 4, I'll probably go with a 3. So I'm going to set my stitch width on 3. I'm going to set my stitch length, right now I'm on 6. I'm going to come down to about 8. So I've made 2 adjustments on the machine, and actually my shot was a little bit off there. So what I changed is I changed our stitch width from the little orange dot where we were sewing with a straight stitch all the way down to 3. And then I changed our stitch length from 6 to right around 8. So we're still going to get a fairly large zigzag that we have to use on this type of material. Otherwise, if we did a straight stitch, it would be like virtually impossible to see it. So let me move back over now. We'll get over by this gunny sack material, this burlap. Super tricky stuff to sew, especially when you're talking about 4 layers. If a single layer of this stuff, if it's made into a bag, can support about 50 pounds of potatoes, with 4 layers right now that we have, we could support easily around 200 pounds of potatoes. That's a lot of weight, folks. That's a lot of weight. So let's try the next one, which, considering the sew-off I'm doing, the next song is perfectly appropriate. It's called Cuckoo's Nest. Yeah, Scott's a little cuckoo. I'm going to turn this down a little bit so we can listen to Jenny run. All right, let's try 4 layers of this gunny sack material. Going to be laying down a zigzag, and we'll keep our fingers and toes crossed. I got to get my take-up arm all the way up. All right, here we go. Hopefully I didn't get too cuckoo with trying to do this. And actually I'm going to back this off a little bit. There we go. Give us a little bit longer of a run. All right, here we go, folks. This should be interesting. Woo! All right, here we go. You see what I mean by the drive system, folks? No matter what we put in front of Jenny so far, this drive system just manages it so well at launch. There's like no hesitation. There's no slippage like we would get with the featherweight. Not to mention we just laid down a gorgeous compressed zigzag. That's my new word. I always say it baby or mini. Now I'm calling it a compressed zigzag because it's not absolutely full size, but it's absolutely gorgeous. I might need to use my shears on this. It's trying to slip a little bit. All right, here's our top stitch through 4 layers of this gunny sack material. And not to mention, we're doing it with a zigzag, which is a swing style stitch. That needle bar is moving back and forth. Every opportunity through a woven material like this to have stitch distortion. Or as that nasty lady in the recent premiere when I presented Joan's machine, she was talking about one of my material sew-offs. I think it was the bubblegum material, and she said it was sloppy stitching. She's on some sort of Minute Maid, because that was a real nice looking stitch on that bubblegum material. But let's face it, I do make these premieres not an easy peasy thing for the machines. I make it challenging, very intentionally. From the needle I select, to the thread I use, to the stitch off material I select. I don't want it to be like, boy, that was impressive, but was it really? Because it was so daggone easy. I want y'all to walk away from this and maybe pick up some of this material yourselves and try it on your machine and go, holy cow, that was off the charts. I didn't realize it when I saw it. I didn't realize that 4 layers of this gunny sack material was that difficult until I tried it myself. Let alone Scott trying it on a live premiere, never having done this off camera before with Jenny, but having a huge amount of confidence in his work on this incredible treasure machine. I've got so much confidence in Jenny because I know the amount of time that we spent together and all the work that I did on her to get her ready for this moment. For her to be able to step onto that red carpet and to be able to do her strut, you know, down that long raceway or whatever it's called. You know, kind of like the Hollywood walk. And to have Donna there in the wings looking on going, that's my girl, that's my girl. Yep, that's why I do what I do. I want that owner to look at this and go, holy mackerel, I didn't know, and I've had so many owners say this to me, I didn't know that my machine was capable of doing that. Look at that stuff, folks. Any of you that think gunny sack material, 4 layers of it, is an easy sew-off, try it on your machine. Go ahead. Make sure you have packaging material available so you can send your machine to the workshop after it breaks. Whereas Jenny did this and it was like, that was easy. Let's come out and look at the totality of stitching. Folks, that is an absolute no-brainer when it comes to a page 34 zigzag. Especially when you consider, again, 4 layers of gunny sack material. A single layer of gunny sack material is going to support at least 50 pounds of potatoes. We've got a 200-pound potato sew-off here. That's a lot of words. 200-pound potato sew-off here that we just did with Jenny, and Jenny went through it, was like, that's it? That's all I get? That's all you're going to test me on, Scott? That's the midterm? That was like a quiz. So, I mean, that's what it's all about. Why do I spend 14 to 16 hours on a machine like Jenny, where if you took it to your local service center, they'd be on it for about 30 to 45 minutes. And Jenny would leave there not being able to do all the things you're seeing today with the ease that she's doing them. Because 14 to 16 hours in the workshop versus 30 to 45 minutes on the workbench of one of those local service centers, there's just no comparison. Let's look at the lock stitch. See if we can continue to be celebrating Jenny's success. I don't think there's really any doubt of that at all. There's doubt of whether or not I can balance this thing. There's definitely doubt about that. Let's turn it that way. All right, I'm going to stop wiggling it. I'm going to wiggle it one more time. So we can try to look at this lock stitch now through 4 layers of gunny sack material, folks. I almost feel like I want to play Cuckoo's Nest one more time because that was cuckoo. But instead of going Cuckoo's Nest, we're going to do let's do this. That's our motto in the workshop after we get done with a machine and spend all of those hours of work on it. We, like me, because it's only me. After all of those hours are invested in a machine like Jenny, my mantra is let's do it. Let's put this machine underneath the lights. Let's get the camera rolling. Let's get our friends watching this live premiere. And let's celebrate. Let's celebrate what this machine is now able to do. So let's just do it. Yeah. Let's do it. Folks, that's the lock stitch. Are you serious? What? Let's look at that again. I'm not even going to go down again. It's wasting everyone's time. Page 34 lock stitch, folks. 4 layers of gunny sack material. 4 layers. We could haul around 200 pounds of potatoes at least with what we just sewed through. That's a definite pass. Going to throw it to the back with our other sew-offs so far. And just go, Jenny, I'm trying to challenge you, honey, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. I don't think I'm going to be able to successfully challenge you. I'd love to, but you are just a powerhouse. You are a mighty mite of a machine. Off camera you can't see it, but the featherweight that I moved off the workbench, it just bowed. It bowed to Jenny. It bowed to Jenny saying, there's no way in God's green earth I could have done it like that. No way. Yeah. It's okay. Remember our friend from California that had that really cool Model A that I did the restore on? And I compared that one to a featherweight as well. Featherweights bowed to that one too. Featherweights know. Their owners get all puffed up about featherweights, but featherweights know what their limitations are. They know what their boundaries are. They know that they can't run side by side with a machine like Jenny. It's not going to happen. Keep on dreaming. It's not going to happen. Yeah. All right. How about some acrylic fiber, since we're doing all kinds of crazy stuff? Why don't we sew 2 layers of acrylic fiber? And we'll lay down a zigzag on this too. Acrylic fiber, again, if you're brand new to this channel, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. But if you're brand new to this channel and you're going, acrylic what? Acrylic fiber is a special man-made material that is designed to make awnings. If y'all know anything about awnings, awnings are exposed to every element of Mother Nature, or Father Nature, or whatever. I mean, high winds, rain, sleet, snow, freezing temperatures, extreme heat, and they just keep on standing up. They just keep on going, yep, got it, got it, got it, got it, got it. That's how tough this stuff is. So it tells you right away the needle piercing threshold on acrylic fiber is, woo, off the charts. And we're going to do 2 layers of it, plus we're going to be laying down a compressed zigzag sewing through this stuff. This stuff I've described as sandpaper. It is so incredibly crazy tough to get through this stuff. And I'm going to be sending this along with all the other sew-offs with Jenny when I send her back to Tennessee to connect with Donna. And Donna will be able to feel this in her own hands and go, holy mackerel. Plus, I just adjusted the material a little bit to the side so that if Donna wants to sit down to Jenny and sew down the other side of it, she can do that. I love it when owners do that because it's so cool for them to see it on camera and then to get that machine back into their household, into their sewing room, into their creative space and say, I want to duplicate what I saw Scott do. That is so cool. I love it. So I'm leaving a little bit of space for Donna to be able to do that if she chooses to. She doesn't have to, but it'd be kind of cool. Hint, hint. All right, take-up arm is all the way up. Let's buzz down with a single line of compressed zigzag stitching on these 2 layers of acrylic fiber. Again, used to make awnings. Oh my gosh, here we go. Can you just hear the machine working to get through this stuff? And yet there's no, I mean, it's working. It's like a marathon runner doing that final kick and that final stretch. But it's not a strain. It's not like, oh, I wonder if the machine can do it. The machine is going to do it. Blah. No big deal. But you can hear that machine working, getting the job done. And that is the coolest part about a machine that is running at the top of its game. You're going to hear the machine working, but you're not going to hear it straining. You're not going to have any doubt in your mind that the job is going to get done. It's just a matter of, it is what it is. 2 layers of acrylic fiber is not an easy sew-off at all. But you know what? Jenny just made it look like it was. She just totally took the wind out of my sails and said, Scott, you're still not challenging me. What do you want from me, Jenny? What do you want? It's 2 layers of acrylic fiber, for goodness sakes. You should have a little bit of a sense of accomplishment and challenge, my lady. Yes, you should. All right, I'll work on that. I'll work on giving you more of a challenge if I can do it. Bah! Oh, let's do Salt Creek. Salt Creek. I had no idea what this is going to sound like. Oh, I got to turn this one up. This is fun. Yeah, it is. Oh, yeah. I got my dancing shoes on. All right, so acrylic fiber top stitch. Almost feel like I have to go to the rhythm of the music. Yee-haw! Folks, I'm just going to be honest with you. I love stomping music. I really do. On Facebook, I'm connected to a ton of very talented musicians, and a number of them are in Nashville, and a number of them love stomping music too. Yeah, they do. Folks, that is again, a no-brainer, page 34. Compressed zigzag. Yeah, it is. Listen to that banjo. Oh my goodness. I love the banjo! All right, let me turn this over. Let's look at the lock stitch. All right, totality of the stitching to begin with. We're already at a page 34, folks. We're already there. We're at a page... All right, hold on a second. We are already on page 34. Compressed zigzag. Yes, it is. Let's zoom in on it. Two layers of acrylic fiber, folks. We're making potato sacks. We're making awnings. We are very busy people. Folks, I'm not even going to go by again. You already saw it twice, 3 times. You can rewind it if you want to. Page 34, compressed zigzag, top and bottom. Acrylic fiber, 2 layers to the back as a pass. Yeah, it is. All right, let's move these clips to the side so I don't mess up my paint job for Jenny. What are we going to do now? Why don't we do some Italian leather? A single layer of Italian leather just to maneuver Jenny a little bit around and to show that she's able to make turns and corners and all that good stuff. I'm not going to sew in a circle necessarily, but I might. So if you don't like me sewing in a circle, look the other way. What should I sew now? I think I'll do a good old-fashioned straight stitch. Let's do a good old-fashioned straight stitch. Kind of showing the maneuverability. of Jenny. She's not only strong, she's not only a looker, but she's also able to maneuver as well. I might have to raise the presser foot a couple times. That's not Jenny's fault. That's just that I got to do it. But we're going to try to buzz around this material a little bit. Again, a single layer of Italian leather. Italian leather is slicker than snot. I'll just say it that way. It's tricky stuff to sew, kind of like when we did all those layers of commercial canvas. 6 layers of that stuff earlier. This stuff tends to be a little bit slippery. And even with proper presser foot pressure, even with nice, sharp, properly aligned feed dogs, yes, feed dogs have to be aligned, by the way. That's part of my service as well. This might give her a little bit of a challenge. We'll see. I doubt it, but it might. All right, blah, blah, blah. Let's give Jenny the stage now and see how she does with this sew-off. Here we go. Going to try to force her to make that turn, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't think I'm going to try to force her to do that turn. We've been working her pretty hard already. All right, I'm going to close the box. Yes, I am. I'm going to close the box for our box closers. Here we go. Box closing. I almost went too far there. I got all excited. I went too far! You're going too far, Scott! You're going too far! That was not the voice of Jenny, by the way. That was the voice of the featherweight telling me that I'm pushing Jenny too far. Because that's what an excited featherweight sounds like. If you ever wondered, a featherweight sounds like, no, 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 Mr. Bell, no. That's what a featherweight sounds like. Jenny's like, yo, I got this. No worries, I got this. She kind of sounds like a gangster, but not really. She's a ladylike gangster, okay? She's a tough gal. We'll just leave it at that. You've already seen how tough she is. Incredibly tough. Nice looking stitching. Very nice looking stitching. Alright, so let's look at the top stitch first. Single layer of Italian leather. Again, a leather that, in my opinion, is more slippery than snot. Depending on how slippery snot is. Maybe there's different grades of snot. I don't know. Hey, if you have kids in the room, take them out of the room because we're talking about snot. We are. We are, and I'm not going to apologize for it. Sometimes we just got to dig down deep and talk about topics that are difficult and controversial, like snot. Triumph on the Prairie. Whoa, whoa, calm down. It's a triumph, but we got to be able to hear ourselves here. Triumph on the Prairie. You got to turn that just a little bit more. A little bit more. There we go. Well, folks, I don't know what you're seeing from your side of the screen. Ooh. Yes. Hold on. Yeah. I had to do it, folks. I had to do it. That is such a beautiful song. I got to remember this one. Triumph on the Prairie. All right, back to the stitch off. Folks, those are gorgeous stitches. No matter how you slice and dice them, gorgeous stitching. Let's zoom in on it. Well, folks, you be the judge. And again, we're coming on a slight angle with our shot here. But in my book, single layer, very tricky to sew Italian leather using a universal needle and quilting thread, page 34. Yeah, it is. Let's take a look at that lock stitch. I got to listen to that one again. I just love that harmonica piece in there. It's simple but sweet. It's got a sweet sound, doesn't it? All right, let's look at this lock stitch on this Italian leather. So quiet. Beautiful stitching. I'm going to back off that upper tension just a little bit because I'm seeing a consistent overemphasis on this lock stitch. I love a defined lock stitch. Don't get me wrong. I love a defined lock stitch. And when you're dealing with multiple layers, see right there? It's gorgeous, but it's a little bit, see how you have a little, if you look real close at the stitching, you can almost see like a little hole next to where the thread is being pulled up from that upper tension, which means it's actually condensing the size of the stitch just minutely because it's pulling up so hard. So I'm just going to just modestly back off that upper tension a little bit. We're set right now right around 7.5. And I'm going to back it off to about 7. But in spite of that, there's an example of the lock stitch right there. It's absolutely page 34. Absolutely page 34. Again, through a single layer of very tricky Italian leather. Very, very pleased with that. And I'm just going to show you real quick. I'll kind of come up on the camera shot. There's our upper tension right there. You can see we're on 7.5 right now. Wait, no, we're not. We're right around 6.5. I had misread that from a distance. We're right around on 6.5. So I'm just going to just barely nudge it towards 6. Just to take a little bit away from that to give a little bit more to our top stitch. Because I'm seeing that our top stitch, sometimes when you see a top stitch and it looks like it's a little bit, as my father would have said, modestly cattywampus. That's actually a word, cattywampus. Where the stitch looks like instead of being straight, it looks like either it's pitched down or up just modestly. Most often, I would say 85 to 90% of the time, that's not going to be a dull needle. It's not going to be anything other than the bobbin pulled down to define that lock stitch. The top stitch, excuse me. The bobbin pulled down to define that top stitch is just a little bit weak. It's not pulling that thread down tight against the material. It's a little bit loosey-goosey. So we just backed off our upper tension a little bit so we can give a little bit more victory to that bobbin case so we can tighten up those top stitches a little bit more, which have been absolutely gorgeous, but they've just been a little bit on the weak side, which gives them less than a perfect alignment look. And that's a product more so of the upper tension being too high than it is of the needle or the thread selection. So I'm going to revise what I said earlier. I was kind of pointing at the needle and the thread. It's more of an issue of the upper tension here. And then we can really pull those back in to a point on the top stitch where they're going to be exactly as they should be. But again, I don't want to take anything away from these. Kind of move the camera back again. I don't want to take anything away from these. And Donna can see those right now as well. Those are gorgeous stitches, but they could even be better by us backing off that upper tension so that that bobbin is going to pull down on these top stitches a little bit more. Lock them in. Lock them in, baby. So, yeah, should have done that earlier, but better late to the party than not at all. You know what I mean? I got to do Triumph on the Prairie one more time. Forgive me, folks. I love this song. I really do. Yeah. That's a definite pass. Italian leather, single layer. Move it to the back, Scott. Move it to the back. right, you're getting all fancy now. He's jazzing it up more than I want to jazz mine up. All right, I bow to you, as Paula loves to say. That's a talented harmonica player right there. I'm a hobbyist harmonica player. Oh, Jenny, I am so impressed with you. Oh my gosh. I am so impressed with you. You are amazing. All right, let's do some bubblegum material. And any of you that are brand new to this channel, this is bubblegum material, and this is why. See that? That's the product of vinyl. All the way down, man. Ah! All right, let's go through a bunch of layers of this bubblegum material for fun. There's 2 layers. Let's go all the way up to 4 layers. I don't know that I've ever done 4 layers of bubblegum material before. I think the last time I did 3, right? We're doing 4 because Jenny is wanting a challenge. Let's give Jenny a challenge. Down and around. Down and around. And why don't we make it even more difficult and lay down a zigzag? Again, make sure your needle is clear of the material when you lay down a zigzag. So I'm adjusting our stitch width from the little dot where we were doing a straight stitch, adjusting it all the way down to 2.5. And then I'm going to do the same thing over by the stitch length. I'm going to back it from 6 all the way to right around 8. So we're going to do a modified or a compressed zigzag going all the way down 4 layers of bubblegum material. I've never ever sewn 4 layers of bubblegum material before. Never on any premiere. Go and check all the premieres out. You'll see that I'm telling you the truth. I've never done it. And I didn't try this off camera. So we're going totally on faith that this is going to work. And now I'm wondering, should I have adjusted my upper tension back when this is the next sew-off, going through 4 layers of this stretchy vinyl bubblegum material? It may have been a mistake. So off camera, shh, off camera, I'm just going to edge up just slightly that upper tension, because this thread, this quilting thread, is going to need help. This quickly growing tired needle, as Sunny said, I think, needle abuse, as this tired needle and this quilting thread is going to need help working its way all the way back up through those 4 layers of this very stretchy vinyl-based bubblegum material. All right? Plus, we're incorporating a swing stitch with a compressed zigzag. Folks, crazy. Totally crazy. We got this, right, Jenny? Yeah, we do. All right, here we go. Down and around, 4 layers, never done before in this channel. 4 layers of bubblegum material. Here we go. Never did this before, folks. Never sewed 4 layers of bubblegum material. Whew. All right, here we go. Down to the finish. Down to the finish. Jenny, you wanted a challenge. You said, Scott, give me a challenge. 4 layers of bubblegum material is definitely a challenge. Here we go, down to the finish. I'm not going to close the box. Any of you box closers want to send me nasty notes, go for it. All right, let's take a look at this, see what we think. Let's see what we think. I'm going to be so bummed when I run out of this bubblegum material. It's fun. And it's incredibly, as I think Paula had said to me in a note after the last premiere with Joan's Machine, she said something to the effect of, I love the fact that you really, really do, at these premieres, you're not just doing window dressing, you really do want to challenge these machines. You really do want to put them under the gun. You put them under the bright lights and you really test them. And you don't edit things. Things sometimes go south, but you never edit it. You show us exactly what happens and it becomes a learning lesson for all of us. So true, right? Yeah, it is. All right, let me see if I can get this to balance here using my clips. Folks, I can already tell you from right here, that top stitch, and again, I didn't totally take back that upper tension adjustment. So our bobbin case is having a little bit more victory pulling down now. And that'll be evident, I think, as we look at some of these future stitch-offs. But we still have enough pull down that we've got an absolutely gorgeous top stitch. Absolutely gorgeous. Oh, you can already see it. I keep forgetting that the camera's aligned where you can kind of already see it. Folks, again, 4 layers of bubblegum material. Never done it on this channel before. You saw how much that stuff stretches. Can you imagine 4 layers of this stuff? Layer upon layer upon layer. Slippery, stretching. And you look at the integrity of that stitch. The spacing, the formation, the presentation of that stitch. Again, a swing stitch? Are you kidding me? And it's absolutely textbook perfect. Absolutely gorgeous. Let's dance with the fireflies. That's the next one. Dance with the fireflies. And I'll zoom in on these so we can look at them closer. That way my little skeptic from the last premiere that wrote some nasty things about stitch integrity and being sloppy, eat your heart out, honey. You try this on one of your machines. Send me the link for the video. I need a chuckle. Anybody wants to try this? Anyone wants to try this, go for it. 4 layers of bubblegum material, folks. 4 layers of bubblegum material. It does not get any better than that. No, it doesn't. Let's turn it over and look at that lock stitch. Are we going to get something different? I took away a little bit of that upper tension on an incredibly difficult sew-off. I took a little bit back, but I had taken quite a bit away. Are we going to see anything dramatic? Anything shocking? I doubt it. This is our lock stitch. 4 layers of bubblegum material. Folks, let's just go home. Let's just ring the bell. I want to ring the bell, but we're not done yet. We're not done yet. Because you know why, folks? That's a page 34 compressed zigzag. Yeah, it is. Look at it from this distance first, then we can always get closer. Look at that quilting in the middle where it puckers up like that. You can just see the stretchiness of this stuff. Again, my little skeptic from the last premiere for Joan's machine. Try this on your machine, honey. See what happens. Absolutely gorgeous. And that right there is obviously a product of lifting the presser foot and moving the material, so I'm just going to say wow. Jenny, you said challenge me. I did. But you're still like slam dunking it. There's no anomaly, there's no hiccup, there's no pause, you're amazing. The featherweight is bowing again off camera, folks. It's bowing again to Jenny, saying there's no way in God's green earth I could have laid, well, number 1 featherweight unless we put an attachment on you. You're not going to be able to do a zigzag. Sorry! You can't do it. You're a straight stitch only machine, honey. But this model 1050 can not only do straight and zigzag, it can do other things too. We're going to see some of that in a little bit. But folks, that is a page 34 compressed zigzag, both on the lock stitch and the top stitch. I'm going to move that to the back. Amazing job. Amazing job. So far, let's look at that sew-off sandwich so far. Got to turn my lens around here. That's our sew-off sandwich so far during this live premiere. Well, correction. This one, technically, I did off camera. This one I did. Well, I did it on camera, but off camera. I did it on camera with a mini clip, but not during this premiere. So this is officially our sew-off sandwich so far. Between the bubblegum material, the Italian leather, the gunny sack material, the genuine elk hide, and then the 6 crazy layers of commercial grade canvas. That would be enough for most anybody. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. We're going to go just a little bit further, because Jenny needs a challenge. She is a tough gal, and she needs a challenge. All right, what was that? Dance of the Fireflies. That was a fun one. And now we're going to do ginormous robots. Ginormous robots. Any of you sci-fi people, this is for you. Ginormous robots. Turn the volume way down. Yep. All right. Let's move in now. Let's join our characters again. What do I have left? What do I have left? Oh, I left the acrylic fiber behind when I showed the sew-off sandwich. How did I do that? All right. So now we've got our compressed felt. You notice I haven't even gotten to the decorative ornamental stitching yet. I haven't even gotten there yet. And now I'm going to press this needle in this incredible 1050 Jenny. I'm going to press it even further with going through a sew-off that broke an identical needle to the one we're using today. A size 90 Schmetz needle, universal, broke sewing this during a live premiere. Any of you that follow me faithfully know this. You were there. You saw it happen and like, oh! A Schmetz broke! How did that happen? My world is not making sense anymore! That was the voice of the Featherweight again. That was not the voice of Jenny. So let's go through 3 layers of compressed felt, which is kind of our thing. And we'll see how Jenny does with this. And of course, we're going to do it with needle swing to make it even more challenging. So this is what we're going to be sewing right here, folks. 3 layers of compressed felt. Broke a Schmetz size 90, which if you don't know what a size 90 is, it's a size 14 needle. That's not a teeny tiny needle, folks. That's not a teeny tiny needle. And it snapped a needle identical to the one we're using today. I hope we don't have deja vu. I hope we don't. I hope we don't. All right, so let's get this into place. And this is a little bit bulkier stuff, so we'll see if we need that hyperextension. I don't think we will. Now we're going to be going with exactly the same stitch settings that we used on the last stitch off that we just did with the bubblegum material. We're going to be doing a compressed zigzag down and around through 3 layers of compressed felt. All right, without any more hullabaloo. I didn't have those thread tails very long. Hold on a second. There we go. All right, presser foot is down. Compressed zigzag, 3 layers of compressed felt. We're like doing double compression here. Compressed felt, compressed zigzag. Compressed to the power of 2. Here we go. It's a little nerve-wracking, folks. This is like evil material. Yeah, maybe one more. There we go. Woo. All right, here we go to the finish. 3 layers of compressed felt using a compressed zigzag stitch. Here we go. Had to give it a little bit of gas at the end. Jenny was like, come on, let it out a little bit. Let it out. Let me be free. Yes, ma'am. All right, let's take a look at these. See what we think. See what we think. I can already see them, folks. That's the advantage of sitting down here at the workbenches. I can see them before you see them in detail. And these are fabulous. Fabulous. Yes, they are. All right. So let's look at the top stitch first. Top stitch first. There we go. Top stitch. Get a little bit of music on because it's so quiet. I'm not going to play Ginormous Robots again. So if you were hoping for that, sorry. Barnyard surprise. Barnyard surprise here at Cow Country. Yeah. This is a fun song, isn't it? All right. Totality of the stitching to begin with. I got to turn that just a little bit more. There we go. So, totality of the stitching is already telling us a story. And it's Jenny did it again. Jenny did it again! It's absolutely spot on, folks. Let me get closer to show you what I mean. 3 layers of compressed felt, folks. I'm just going to say it. Page 34. It doesn't get any better than that. Again, my little critic from the last premiere with Jones' machine. Eat your heart out, honey. Try this on your machine. Beautiful stitching. Absolutely beautiful stitching. Kind of come right about to there. All right, let's turn over and look at that lock stitch. That is absolutely spot on. Here's our lock stitch now. I don't think we're going to see anything dramatically different. Got to turn that just a little bit more. Camera angles are so much of a challenge sometimes. Folks, that is some gorgeous stitching as well. And that again is our lock stitch through 3 layers of compressed felt. That is anything but an easy sew off. Beautiful, beautiful. It's such a fun song, isn't it? Yeah, taking a little bit away from that upper tension so we could not have an overly pronounced lock stitch was definitely the right move. We're still getting a gorgeous lock stitch, and again through a woven material like this, a compressed woven material like this, using a size 90 Schmetz universal needle that's gone through a ton of sewing already, and it's still going strong. So I'm going to give this a definite pass as well, folks. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. Again, Jenny is just knocking it out of the park. We can't challenge this girl. We can't challenge her. All right, what do we have left? We've got our decorative sewing, and we've got one big chunk of protected full grain leather. I might use that protected full grain for my decorative sew-offs, because I think it's fun to do that sometimes. All right, Arkansas Traveler. Anybody from Arkansas? Has anyone ever been through Arkansas before? Has anyone ever lived in Arkansas before? Does anyone live in Arkansas? Of course they do. It's a beautiful, beautiful state. But if you've ever been through Arkansas or lived in Arkansas or have an interesting story about Arkansas, type it into the chat, would you? Yeah. This is Arkansas Traveler. All right, now I'm going to change the camera angle a little bit, and we're going to jump into some of the cam-generated stitches that Jenny can do. You come right about to there. Well, the first thing we're going to do is this. We're going to have to back off that stitch length. Let's do that first. Right now we're on right around an 8. We're going to have to go a little bit smaller than that. Go to right around between 10 and 12. We'll try that. I probably should go a little bit shorter than that, but we're going to go right around between 10 and 12. That's our reverse. We're not going to do anything with that. Our stitch width. We got to do something with our stitch width. Let's take it all the way up to 4, just for fun. And now our stitch selector. Our stitch selector. So that looks like kind of a 3-point zigzag stitch. We'll lay that down. We'll lay that one down. Yeah. Now let's do it on leather. I had this other material prepared with the stiffener and all that, but that's kind of easy peasy. Oh, you know what I didn't do either? Let's do our decorative sew-offs, and then I'm going to cut a piece of ribbon material, 100% polyester, so we can try that too. And I'm going to go with a shorter run. I almost want a really long run, but I don't want to run out of bobbin thread. Okay, so this is one of our cam generated stitches right here. All right, let's give this a go. This is stomping music too, folks. I love stomping music. All right, here we go. Take up arm is all the way up. Let's see what we get with this one. This is kind of like a 3-point zigzag type stitch thing going on here. Well, that's a pretty stitch, isn't it? Can you see that? Yeah, you can. That's a gorgeous stitch. I love that one. It's a beautiful stitch, Ginny. Beautiful stitch. All right, let's see what we have next. So off camera, what I'm going to do now, I'm not going to change any other setting on the machine other than the stitch selector. I'm going to move us to the next stitch option that it's going to give us. And again, you notice that my needle is clear of the material. And this looks like it's going to be a blind hem stitch. It's kind of looking like a blind hem to me. We'll see what we get and not throw a fit, right? Let's see what we get and not throw a fit. So that was Arkansas Traveler. Again, if you've ever been through Arkansas, lived in Arkansas, airdropped into Arkansas, or whatever you did, I hope you shared it with the group. Men at Work is the next one. Men at Work. The men are doing some weird work, because that's what it sounds like. All right, so let's do this next stitch that's on this model 1050. Let's see what we think of this one. This one kind of looks like a blind hem, but I'm not positive about that, so don't quote me. Here we go. Beautiful. I stopped up in position too. Yeah. It's almost kind of a stretch blind hem, isn't it? I think my friend Brett is the one that shared that in one of the recent premieres. Again, we're sometimes a teacher, but we're always a student. So So I love when people share stuff like that. It's so cool. But all blind hem stitches have some common core values. And they're really designed as a concealed stretch type stitch, aren't they? Yeah, they are. So that's what we've done so far. Aren't those lovely? Aren't those gorgeous? Beautiful stitching. Let's do the next one. So off camera, I'm just taking that knob on top, or that dial, and I'm turning it to the next one. And this one has kind of an interesting look to it. We'll see what we think of this one. Take up arms all the way up. Let's lay down this next stitch. Again, all of these are cam generated. There's a cam stack that's horizontally mounted in Ginny, and this is how she does her magic. Here we go. I got kind of excited there. Sorry about that, folks. All right, I'm going to get excited again. That's like 10% of her power, folks. That's like 10% of her power. Ooh, that's a fun one. It's kind of like a little mountain range thingy going on, isn't it? Yeah. Matter of fact, I think if you went to the original owner's manual, which I do not have a copy of, the original owner's manual would say, that's a cool mountain range thingy. Yeah. Yeah, it would. Clip, 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 clip. So this is the one we just did on the far right. That's a fun one, isn't it? I like it a lot. All right. So let's do the next one now to complete silence. So I'm going to turn the dial again. I got all excited there. Sorry about that, folks. All right. So I believe this next one, I think this next one is going to be our catacomb style stitch that I had done on that mini clip. I think it is. So if it is, it's probably going to do all kinds of fun things. Here we go. Oh, take up arm all the way up. So now if I run on a bobbin thread, I'm cool, because at least we did the coolest, what I think is one of the coolest stitches on Ginny. This one that we're going to do right now. I think it's this one. It might be this one. Here we go. Oh yeah, it's definitely this one. See how it's the feed dogs are manipulating for overlay of the thread? They're manipulating the material forward and back very rapidly. So it's not just needle swing. It's material movement forward and back. Folks, not only does she do it, and not only does she slam dunk everything, but she does it with such grace and beauty, doesn't she? I mean, that is a really, really complicated, tough stitch. And she is just, I'm trying to get the thread to feed here. Hey, let go, let go. Come on, let go of the thread. Don't make me unthread you. I will do it. Wait till your father gets home. All right, I'm going to put on some music while we have a little thread loop down there where I was rotating it. And that happens sometimes, daggone it. All because of the men being at work was the last song. Now we're doing Jessica as I resolve my challenge here. First of all, I'll show you the stitching that we just did. So this next one is called Jessica. I have no idea why. Yeah, this is the same stitch I did on that mini clip. Beautiful stitch. Let me show it to you. See that one? So those are the stitches that we've done thus far. Alright, I'm going to tackle this puppy now. I may have to open my little door. I'm going to have to open my little door. Actually, that'll give me a chance to check my bobbin. Oh yeah, I've got enough bobbin thread left. I'm still solid. Still doing well. It's looped around down there. It sometimes happens, doggone it. Alright, unloop. There we go, that was easy enough. It's just caught on the hook. Alright, let's get back to business now. Let's get back to business. Alright, after all that drama, you were having it too easy, weren't you, Jenny? You were just like, I'm going to add a little drama to this. It's been just way too smooth for Scott's live premiere. Now we're going to get a little bit of drama. That's okay. That's okay. I'm okay with drama. You just be Drama Queen USA. That's fine. I got this. I got this. Alright, now we're going to put our little box back in. And we'll get back to sewing now that Jenny, we're listening to Jessica actually, now that Jenny is done being a little bit of a drama queen. Alright, there we go. Take up arm all the way up. There we go. Alright, so let's do the next stitch, which I just want to make sure I'm not doing them twice. I don't think I have. No. So this is going to be another, it kind of looks like a blind hem, but it almost looks like a double blind hem. So we're in blind hem territory here. Alright, here goes the next stitch that's on the cam stack for Jenny. Here we go. And listen to Jenny run. She is just a happy girl. Yes, she is. Now this one's doing some feed dog action too, so this is going to be a different type of catacomb stitch. A little faster. Yeah, that was about 10%. About 10%. This one we had a little bit of an anomaly in the middle, maybe because I was going too fast. This is a type of a blind hem. I think I'm pushing my needle too far. I think, Sonny, we're getting some needle abuse. We definitely are. Yeah. Getting a little bit of needle abuse. Yeah, we had a little bit of a separation in the middle, which I just kind of clipped out. And I think that's strictly a product of the needle getting a little tired. You can see what we've done so far, from right all the way back to left again. Yeah, it's a different type of blind hem type layout, and had a little bit of a hiccup at the end. But I'm going to keep pushing this needle. We're not going to quit because this is the end of our run. This is the end of our run. So I'm going to try to do another stitch adjacent to this one. We'll see what we get on this one. And I won't push Ginny quite as fast and furious, because you're dealing with a lot of needle swing plus feed dog action, and you can cause the machine to stumble when it doesn't need to. All right, let me raise that up. A little bit more of a tail on there. Okay, let's do this next stitch. And I honestly don't know what it will be. We'll give it a try. Here we go. This one is also manipulating the feed dogs quite a bit. I didn't test any of these off camera, which is probably a mistake, but oh well. It's very similar to that catacomb stitch, very similar. Very, very similar to that. It's slightly different, though. It's slightly different. This one's got just a little bit of a different look to it. A little bit of a different look. Yeah, I like this one a lot. Let me show you this one. This one right here is the one that we just did. See how it differs from the other one that I call a catacomb? They all have a slightly different look, don't they? We've got just a couple left. Again, you're not going to get any of these cool stitches, these ornamental decorative type stitches. You're not going to get any of these with the featherweight. There are some attachments you can use with the featherweight, but it's not going to give you anything close to this, that's for sure. All right, so let's change to the next one and give this one a try. See what we think of this one. All right, here we go. Whoops. Doesn't help if I don't have my foot all the way on the foot controller. This is a really strong stitch. A lot of overlay on this. Oh my goodness. You'd have to have a seam ripper on steroids to get this puppy cleaned out. You would have to have a seam ripper on steroids to get this one out. Holy mackerel. It's a gorgeous stitch, but it's just an intense, a super intense stitch, isn't it? Wait till you see it. I love the look of this one. And again, I got to give some credit to our thread. Our quilting thread is managing some very tough stitching through some very tough materials. And it sometimes does have a tendency to break. And it's been doing extremely well. So maybe that disgruntled employee that was pumping out the substandard thread being distributed by our friends at Jo-Ann Fabrics, maybe that person finally got the axe, huh? They caught that person doing their dirty deed and said, "You're out of here. You're out of here." All right, I think we only have... No, those are buttonholes. We've done all of them. There's three buttonholes after this, but I'm not going to do those. So we've accomplished our mission totally. The last thing I'll lay down on here is a super wide zigzag and a straight stitch, and then we'll call it the end of the premiere. Yeah. Let's see. So that was Jessica. Good old Jessica. Horses and Trains. Horses and Trains. And if you're brand new to this channel and you don't know it, Bill O'Rourke, my fellow admin on Facebook, along with Olga, he restored a vintage train. Yeah, he did. Ask him about it sometime. All right, so let's do this next one. Now we're going to do a wide zigzag, and then we're going to lay down a straight stitch, and then we're done. We're done! Hooray! All right, here we go. Jenny, don't let us down, honey. You've done a great job this whole premiere. You've been amazing. The only hiccup we had was because I was pushing you too hard and fast for a very difficult stitch. So let's finish this off with a bang. I mean, no bang. No, bangs are bad. Bangs are bad for sewing machines. Let's finish this off with a boom. No, booms are even worse. Let's just finish this. Here we go. That is a mega large zigzag. Yes, it is. I feel like we're at the Ponderosa with this song or something, don't you? I was going to show you a bunch of pictures too. I don't think we'll have time. All right, and a straight stitch. Here we go. Again, what I'm sewing on is protected full grain leather. A very, very tough leather. You can hear the horse and everything, or somebody was like imitating a horse in that song. That was fun. Whoa, I dropped the whole thing. All right, thread to the rear, there we go. So here's what we did right now. Turn my screen around, there we go. Okay. Hold on a second. It's my phone reminding me of something. Okay. So let's take a look at these, shall we? And again, we're going with the first that we did, way over here. And then all the way across. Beautiful stitching. I'm going to turn it around. And you're going to be hard pressed to see the lock stitch on this. I'm just going to be honest with you. Yeah, you can't really see the lock stitch at all. But you can definitely see the top stitch, and the top stitch on Jenny, Donna's machine is just absolutely as we want to see it. It's absolutely spot on. So I'm going to throw that to the rear as well as a great example of a machine sewing to perfection. We're going to quickly, I might have time, we're going to quickly pop over to Facebook and I'm going to show you progress shots of all the stuff I took Jenny through. I hope we have time. I hope we have time. So here's kind of an opening shot of our two friends, the doctor and his wife. And this is right at the very beginning. So you can see that beautiful embossed case. Kind of pushes through this fast. There's the proud branding mark of Sears and Kenmore. There's our little friend kind of looking in there. This is almost like a Chinese puzzle box, this case of Donna's that goes around Jenny to safeguard her. And you just got to open it right to get through there. There's the doctor's wife. Again, these are just kind of introductory shots, kind of just shows you the machine in its infancy. There's the doctor getting a little bit of elevation, standing on top of Mr. Bean's car so we can take a closer look at Jenny. Proud branding mark of Sears and Kenmore. There's our controls again, which you've become very familiar with through this premiere. The doctor and his wife kind of looking at that cool clutch design on there that you pull out. Now we're starting to look a little bit more into the machine. We're in the faceplate area. Again, inside of the faceplate, when you open it, is going to be your presser foot adjuster, and the maximum is 4. There's a beautiful shot. And this is kind of showing Jenny before she got her paint job. You can see how faded that coating was on the plastic, on the extension bed, and all the rest of it. Very, very faded. Plus we had some nasty tape stuff on there that I used, the Goo Gone stuff that Paula was so kind to send me. And the doctor's wife is kind of checking out that space down there that's really dirty. Yucky stuff. Yucky, yucky, yucky. There's the whole contraption all set up. We're getting ready to hopefully get into a little bit more. Now this, when you take out the accessory box in that, this is going to be your feed dog drop, which was grossly out of alignment and frozen. But it works beautifully now. You just rotate it down. Right now it's in the engaged position. You rotate it down and then you're able to enjoy the benefits of free motion quilting. And there's that beautiful case behind the doctor and his wife. Made in Japan. It is a Japanese machine by design. Or should say by manufacturing. It's a Kenmore machine by design. And look at all the metal in there. It's a well engineered, well-built machine. That again is looking down at the top of our upper tension adjustment right there. Part of our cam stack that is horizontally mounted on this model. There's our stitch selector knob on top. Part of our drive system over here. Our Pitman arm. Distance shot showing the engineering of the machine. Very well built machine, incredibly well built. And here we're just kind of seeing the doctor and his wife kind of looking towards the center of that. Very nice feed dog system too on that. Although when it started it wasn't so great. Yeah. There's our raceway, the brain center of the machine, and it is very filthy. The doctor and his wife starting to get into things a little bit. We're starting to tear that raceway apart with the hook system. Again, this is going to have an oscillating hook system, which means that this part of the hook assembly right here is going to be rocking from side to side like a pendulum. It's not going to be going like a rotary in a full circle. And again, I do work at tearing the machine down as far as I feel it needs to be torn down. There's the doctor's wife having just discovered that cool extension bed on the machine. And she's going to flip it up, I think, and stand on it. Yeah, she's a rebel. She's a rebel. Yeah, she is. Tilting the machine back. Taking the machine apart is a little bit tricky on this one. A little bit tricky. And there's the nomenclature plate I was talking about that describes it as a 1 amp machine, but when you look at the motor, it says 0.8 amps. And we're starting to look at the side of the machine as well, where that dual belt system is set up, which is really fabulous. That's a cute shot of the doctor looking at his wife, and I think they're flirting a little bit with each other right there, which is kind of cute. And they're looking at that dual belt system now, which is really quite impressive on this machine. There you can see it very clearly. A far improvement for traction over what the Featherweight has for sure. Also a nice cogged belt, so it's got a real nice bite on those cogged pulleys as well. Very thoughtful design, very well designed on the part of Kenmore. Excellent design feature. A more distant shot there. It's right at the end of this one. We're getting closer and closer and closer. Oh! And that's the first set. And I'm doing this rather rapidly just because we're kind of tight on time. Beautiful shot of the doctor and his wife celebrating at the end of the restoration for Ginny. They're kind of having a little romantic moment there, which is cute. All right, next one. And now you're going to see a lot of disassembly. You're going to see a lot of cleaning, a lot of work going on with Ginny, and I'm going to go through it rather rapidly. You notice her extension bed is gone, all the rest of that is gone, and that's partly because I'm going to be working on preparing that surface for painting and painting that surface because it's grossly faded from its original color. It's just in real bad shape. There you can see a lot of that glue base on there as well that was put on the machine. Using a dental tool to kind of clean some of that up, along with some chemicals. Getting it prepared for painting, and yes, I'm using a USPS box as a background. Starting to restore that luster and color again. It was really a major concern for Donna, and I totally get it. So I really wanted to try to invest some time in getting that the way it should be. There's a distant shot. I've cured it, I've dried it. I use a heating process to do that, very much like you do in a full-size paint shop, like when I do full restores in my paint shop. And more cleaning. And my friends are very much involved in trying to help. Even the doctor's wife. Doctors' wives are sometimes accused of being trophy wives. But this is a definite wife that gets involved with the process. And on the bottom of the machine, there was an absorbent pad that Kenmore had put in there originally to catch the oil when it drips down, and it had totally deteriorated. So all of that had to come out, and I had to replace it with another type of pad absorption. But all of that stuff was migrating around the machine, creating a huge mess. And I had to deal with that. It even got all over me. More work. Busy, busy workbench, as you can see. There's some of that padding that they put in there. And unfortunately it dried out and became airborne in the machine and just created a huge mess. Those are some of the glue strips there that they used to adhere it. Part of those I removed. Some of them I just went over the top of them because it would have added so much time and may have damaged the plastic on the bottom as well. Bottom of the hook system, and there's a closed space in there where there are critical worm gears that need proper lubrication. We'll eventually get back to that. These are just some of the additional mechanics. And there you can look real closely on there. You can see 0.8 amp. But the nomenclature plate says 1 amp. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy there between the motor branding mark and the nomenclature plate. Sorry about that. Inbound call. There you can see that stuff again. It's just interesting thought, but wrong material they used because it just degraded. Getting all that cleaned up. And there I'm working on the feed dog drop because it was misaligned and it was frozen. So I had to use my torch to try to loosen things up and then reposition it and then get it working properly with some lubricant. And it uses a piston approach, so it has to be able to move freely and pitch in and out as you're lowering and raising the feed dogs. And there was all kinds of buildup on there. It's just a mess. There's my friends again, making some adjustments. And now we're going into that space where the worm gears are, and there's some very old, nasty grease. I'm showing it to the doctor's wife. And it needs to be replaced with the proper, fresh, pink grease that I use. Look at all that junk in there. And that's a high-speed, high-revolution area that's all gummed up. It's just nasty in there. You can see it. And that's not good for the machine. It makes the machine work a lot harder than it has to try to spin up that raceway. So we've got it relatively clean now. I'm trying to get as much of that out of there as I can. The doctor's checking it as well. And I'm showing him my pink grease. We're packing that area now so it's properly packed with fresh lubricant that's not going to dry out. A special grease. Cleaning the grease seal and everything out as well. Making sure that's all spick and span. Making sure that the seal is in place as well. It's actually got a seal. The doctor's wife is helping me to put the cover back on. Get that all. Now I'm doing some special cleaning on the motor. And now we're laying down a fresh pad in the bottom and sealing it in there that's not going to degrade like that foam stuff that they used. And I'm quick drying it using my torch very carefully. Don't recommend that at home. It's very tricky. There we've got some fresh padding down. Also cleaning the inside cover out with extra debris that was on there. You can see that on the end of the pad. Very, very yucky. They're proudly showing it off now that it's all cleaned. Now we're cleaning some of the internal raceway components like the hook system and that, getting that clean as well. Showing our 3 pieces that were repainted to match the original branding birthmark of the machine. And they are very proud of that. And they are celebrating now, because Jenny is ready for the premiere. Well, there you go, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you had fun. It's such a cute shot of them, isn't it? Such a cute shot. Yeah. All right, well, back over to Jenny. Donna, I just want to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, the honor of having Jenny in the workshop and being able to bring her back to a point of glory, just as you remembered her when you got her as that special high school graduation gift. She is just a sweet peach of a machine. And as you can see from our sew-off sandwich, we have really put her to the test today, and she did not miss a beat during any of this premiere. So incredibly impressed with how she performed during this premiere today, and just laid down incredible, incredible stitching. So with that, I'm going to ring the bell because I have a customer arriving. The tempo never stops here in the workshop. It never, ever stops. Even at night. Even at night. But congratulations, Donna. She is a beauty. You're going to have so much fun. All right, God bless everybody. And remember, life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning how to dance in the rain. And life has rain sometimes, doesn't it? But then comes the rainbow. Take care, everybody. Stay tuned for other great premieres like this, where you see amazing machines like this that even the Singer Featherweight bow to. Bye now.